Now, the Nuss bus. Nuss pulled the bus into Atlanta on Saturday night. Sure, it was phenomenal to see, and somebody who was early on very much a advocate for Garrett Nussmeier and thought that he was going to be the quarterback of the squad. Before Daniels developed, and I think early on in this we said, I mean, look, Daniels is the quarterback for LSU behind an offensive line that was trying to work out some kinks and couldn't get a steady rotation or a steady, guys of starters each week. They needed somebody that was mobile, that could keep things alive, and Jayden Daniels was that guy. And he was the right quarterback in my opinion after seeing Nussmeier on Saturday night. But it did give you a little bit of just kind of what if you would have played Nussmeier, and especially early on, right? And look, he stepped in on Saturday night.
So hard to talk about,
against a defense that is, again, very elite in college football. They were unprepared for what Nussmeier was doing, but just evaluating him, right? Like just evaluating him. His trigger is it's so it's
different.
It's so hot. You know what I mean? Like
so different.
I mean, it's just so attractive. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh God. I mean, like he lets the football go, and you're like, wow.
Whoa.
Wow. I mean, look at
wow, and then where's it going?
Yeah, and so is he.
Yeah,
to a little bit. I mean, he threw 3 passes that should have been pick sixes. You know what I mean? Like, hell, the first one he threw to Jordy in the middle of the field, like 2 DBs were like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like,
it shocked him.
Yeah, absolutely, it shocked them because they didn't see it on
we
film.
We planted for this.
You know what I mean? Like even Jayden Daniels. I mean, that was so different than what LSU was, and I mean, I think that the wide receivers, obviously would have been the biggest beneficiaries with their numbers and, you saw it. I mean, you saw the night they had, but look, I still believe that Jayden Daniels was the right quarterback for LSU. I don't, if you play Nussmeier, there's a lot of, spider webs that you're going to have to, clear out just because of, I mean, for as good as it was on Saturday night, sometimes the bad can feel like that as well. You know what I mean? Because he'll start just uncorking it, and, he trusts that arm, which, he should. And, I mean, think about how that thing terrorized high school football. You know what I mean? Like, he was playing at a big-time program in Texas. And, I mean, that athleticism, that arm strength, I mean, he was a highlight reel. And Saturday night was a perfect opportunity for him. I mean, just, hey, man, you got nothing to lose. You're down. You got to throw the ball around. You know what I mean? You got to make plays. And that's exactly who he is, right? Like, I mean, like, he needs some steering. He needs some coaching. He needs some guys to, get the kinks out for sure. But, I mean, as far as just the skill set goes, that release reminds me of very much of Jarrett Lee, where he comes off that back foot and the ball is just here, and before you know it, man, I mean, it is zipped to wherever he wants it to go. And sometimes, he has no idea where it's going. But, as we've said, with all of these commitments that have come in on the quarterback spot, from Walker Howard, who's now on campus, to Ricky Collins, who's coming in a couple of weeks, to Colin Hurley, who's a beast over in Florida. I mean, this is the golden age of LSU quarterbacks, or at least in my lifespan of covering the program and being a fan of the program that, goes 30 years, 35 years. I can't remember a quarterback room that's going to feel and look like what it potentially could next fall. I don't know, man. People are asking, is Nussmeier transferring? Is he gone? You're not going to keep them all. And I know they're in love with Walker Howard. And I know there's potential of Jayden Daniels coming back. So saying that out loud with, that type of scenario, it feels like he would be the odd man out at this point. So maybe that was, fantastic film to put down before the transfer portal opens up today. I mean, I guarantee you there are people around the country wondering, is Nussmeier going in?
Talk to his daddy.
So, I don't want to overreact to Nuss. I thought it was fun to watch him get out there and zip the ball around to just kind of show off who he is and the arm strength and all of his potential.
And I think, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think Kasky put it probably perfectly. Where it's like he's playing in a zero pressure spot. Like he gets to go out and audition essentially for either, whether it be LSU or any team in the portal. But that's what he got to do. He got to go play free. And I don't want people to get too reactionary to what Nussmeier did, because when you look at it in totality, it was a zero-sum game. He scored 2 touchdowns, but also gave up 2 turnovers. Like, that's who he is right now. And while it was exciting to watch, and it's kind of the version of the LSU offense you kind of always imagined a little bit with getting the ball to the playmakers and how it just popped. But in the same vein, he turned the ball over twice. Yeah. And, so that's who he is. And that's why Jayden Daniels is your incumbent starter if he comes back, because he won you the football game. Like, that's what Jayden does. It doesn't look as sexy, but where are we? SEC championship. Why? JD5.
Yeah. No, exactly, man. I think that it is.
But don't think I wasn't turned on.
By Nuss?
I saw her flirting at the other side of the bar, but
for sure.
I can't go over there.
No doubt. Still look great.
She's toxic.
Still look great.
But she's going to drive my car into a ditch.
No doubt.
We got to go.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see what happens with Nussmeier. I do expect, there to be some type of reaction here for what's going on with the quarterbacks. And like we said, Jayden Daniels potentially could come back. It feels like at this point he will come back. There's been so much talk of Walker Howard by the coaches of, they really, really like him and really potentially think that there is, a lot of the future of this program is going to be built around him. And then you've got incoming guys that can play. I mean, all these guys are Elite 11 nationally prominent quarterbacks, whether it's Ricky Collins or, a guy like Colin Hurley out of Florida who continues to develop. I mean, a very young player, but still, his time will be here before you know it. And you say it out loud, and Garrett Nussmeier, who's been there and has been loyal to LSU, was very much, a mouthpiece for his recruiting class and someone that was, almost considered the glue, right, of keeping it together. And that was like Kayshawn and Mason Smith and, all of those guys, the sophomore class at LSU. So, he's been great to the program and to the university. Whatever he decides to do, I think we can all agree, you got to support him, right? You got to support the individual he's given everything to the program that he can. If he decides that he wants to go play somewhere and it gives him a better chance to do it somewhere else, I would say, man, go get it. And every time I watch you play, I'm pulling for you.
Unless it's in the SEC.
Which it probably will be.
I think so, too.
You know what I mean? Like it's and that's what football is going to become very much here in the next couple of years is you're going to see guys playing on different sidelines each week. There's going to be a lot of Eli Ricks. There's going to be a lot of guys that play at LSU and go to Alabama.
Ipso facto.
Right. And vice versa.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be – it's just too easy to happen.
Good.
Yeah, there's going to be guys that are at Texas A&M that could play at LSU.
Max Johnson.
Or, a cornerback maybe.
But do you think that, to continue on the quarterback thing just for one more second, do you think it's another scenario in which it was last year where Nussmeier wants to be at LSU?
Yes.
It's a little bit of Miles Brennan in terms of, this is the school I wanted to go to. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to play here. Give me a chance to compete in the spring, and then I'll make my decision after you name a starter, and I'll hit the portal.
Possibly.
Because I think he doesn't want to go anywhere else.
Well, he's always wanted to be here.
Yes.
Right? And, he's a coach's son. I'm sure there's a lot of emphasis on, finishing something you start and sticking with your decision. But in today's college football world, where the opportunity to play at other we saw DJU from Clemson.
That's what I would call him too.
Yeah. Ugalele.
Ugalele?
He put his name into the transfer portal after Klubnik. They went to him. Yeah, he did. He did.
Well,
but that's been kind of. It looks like Dabo's just he's been trying to protect him.
Mm-hmm.
He's been trying to throw him out there and play him and stick with him, but
he gave him every opportunity.
He did, and at some point, the better player took the spot over, and Klubnik's he's a better player.
He looks different.
Yeah, he does.
And for Jayden Daniels, we kind of talked a little bit about this on Friday, but don't you think that it was on Mic'd Up where Jared Mitchell was like, this will force him to be a passer. You'll see what you have in Jayden Daniels when he can't use his legs. And I think what you saw is something you could certainly build on. Like, the way that he threw the football and when he knew he had to, it looked good. Like, obviously Nussmeier is going to get the headlines because it looked totally different. But Jayden Daniels being forced into that role, I wasn't upset at all with how he was playing. LSU's in that game if the ball doesn't bounce 2 different ways.